It
Okay, so people are coming in.
says at the top, webinar now live. And
Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Moshe Fai, and I'm going to go ahead and get everything started as of 7:05, allow people to come in. It's over 600 people have signed up. So if you could just be patient with us, we'll start sharp at 7:05. Thank you very much.
That's a good idea.
Once again, I want to welcome everyone. Just bear with us. We're going to start the webinar at 7:05. Thank you.
Colleague to all panelists.
Well, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our webinar for changes to the laws of the game 2020-2021. I'm happy that we're back to work. And so this is a good time for all of us to refresh the materials that we need to put to work as of this coming weekend and so forth. I want to introduce our panelists, Tim Whalen, Ali Mohibbi, and you better, all of you guys know this man, Mr. Sabella, Bob Sabella. Later on, we're going to have Steve Larson join us as well. So without keep looking at my face, I'm going to turn it to Mr. Whalen, and we are very honored to have him and all the panelists for this informative information. Thank you.
great. Thank you, Mo. Bob, can you hear me all right? Okay, that means everyone else can, so that's a good thing. And hopefully you can see the presentation. Appreciate everyone joining tonight, and myself, as well as Bob and Ali will chime in when appropriate. We'll talk about the laws of the game, specifically the changes for 2021. And then we'll have an opportunity to take questions at the end. So there is a Q&A section. I believe it should be at the bottom of your screen for most people. You can type in questions there and we'll take as many as we can and answer as many questions as we can. So again, thanks for joining. For those who don't know me, probably best known as a referee, both internationally and in Major League Soccer. Now I'm one of the national referee coaches as well as a pro assessor, but in my youth, I was a youth player in Northern California, as well as a high school player, and for a period also a college player. I've been a coach of youth teams, my daughter's teams, and of course a parent on the sideline. So appreciate everyone joining, whatever your role is, and let's get started. Let me just make sure I can change that. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to be talking about the IFAB laws of the game. IFAB, as probably you know, stands for International Football Association Board. And the International Football Association Board was created many, many years ago. Actually, the first laws of the game were written by what was the beginning of the Football Association Board back in, I think it was 1863. So quite a long time ago. I'm only going to be covering the changes to the laws this evening and then any questions that you have. But if you want more information, you can see at the top of the screen, you can go directly to their website at it's www.theifab.com. And you can get lots of information, including downloads of the laws of the game. And for those that might be interested, you can also download the app either on iOS or I think Google as well onto your phones and have the laws of the game right with you at any time. One of the things that we should talk about before we get started, and probably you all know, but certainly it's written into any of the changes, the doctrine of fairness, integrity, respect, safety, and enjoyment are really a part of the spirit of the laws. And probably some of you years and years ago, I remember reading a book by Sir Stanley Lover called, I can't even remember the name of the book, but he talked about safety, equality, and enjoyment as the foundations for the laws. And if you think about it, you know, things like fairness and equality are written in, you know, you change sides, so you're not going always in one direction. Even if you think about the shape of the field, and probably nobody's thought about this because the field is what the field is, right? It's rectangular, but it's not square, it's not circular, it's not anything else, because the purpose of the game, of course, is to score goals, right? So probably many of you have been involved in pickup games where you know, you have two shirts on each side for the goals, but then, you know, play might go way out to the left or way out to the right. There's no enjoyment in that. And of course, the game isn't directed the right way. So you can see there's a reason that the field is shaped like it is. And then, you know, things like safety. It's pretty clear why, you know, the corner flags have to be a certain height, or the goalposts need to be staked down and held down so they don't fall over on a youth player or something like that. So as we go through this, you know, keep in mind that the spirit of the game contains these elements. And when the IFAB and the people that are involved with IFAB are thinking about any changes, they're thinking about those concepts. And I would also point out another Northern California referee who is also responsible for the CONCACAF referees, Brian Hall, is a member of one of the advisory boards for IFAB. So there are many people involved in the game from our neck of the woods, which is nice to see. The last thing at the bottom here is to think about, you know, what would football expect? The laws of the game are relatively short, so they don't cover every single circumstance. So again, we have to think about, for those that understand the game, what is expected to happen, and you know, that's how we help make appropriate decisions. All right, for the amendments in 20 and 21, they're focused on the laws that are here. And if you look on the right-hand side of the presentation here, if you go to the ifab.com, you'll see it organized this way, and you can look up anything you want about the laws of the game. There were some changes to the video assistant referee, but of course in youth soccer there are no video assistant referees, so we're not going to worry about those. So let me start with a clarification, and let me also just say that the laws of the game that we're talking about are those that apply right now. I know there's a spring season that I believe started last week. The International Football Association Board has already met this year. They met earlier this month, and they've already decided on some changes that will take effect later in the year, beginning July 1st. We're not going to talk about those. There are only a few. We're going to talk about what's applicable now, and when we get closer to July 1st or at that point, then we can talk about the changes that will apply going forward. But probably you know, several years ago, the law was changed so that a goal kick or a free kick inside the penalty area doesn't have to leave the penalty area to be in play. The ball's in play as soon as it is kicked and clearly moves. So as soon as that happens, the ball's in play. So that led to a circumstance where some players said, well, okay, if I'm the goalkeeper, I'm just going to flick it up to a teammate who can head it back to me, and then I can put it in my hands and throw it up the field. That's much better. And so IFAB clarified that that's not appropriate and not possible. They've said, at least at this point, there's no disciplinary action, but you would retake the kick. So it can't be allowed. Now, if somebody keeps doing it, then you have a different circumstance and maybe you have to take some disciplinary action. But goal kicks need to be kicked. They can't be flicked back to the goalkeeper into the goalkeeper's hands. So that was just one of the clarifications from IFAB. Another one, just to talk about, not a big deal, but Law 1, of course, is the field of play. Part of the field of play are the goals. And they just clarified that the goals can be a combination of a number of shapes. So maybe the uprights are square, but the crossbar is round. That's not a problem. It just needs to be made up of these shapes. I would expect that both uprights would be the same, but the crossbar could be different. In any event, square, rectangular, round, or elliptical, all of those shapes are certainly allowed. And you notice in the picture here, the goal posts themselves are exactly the same width as the line, but that's not always the case. And if you think about what the goal posts are saying, when something is completely crossed, between the posts and under the crossbar, it's a goal, right? So you should always line up the back of the post with the back of the line so everything crosses at the same time. All right, moving on to Law 10, which used to be called method of scoring. Now it's called determining the outcome of a match. And one change that occurred is specifically related to kicks from the penalty mark. So after the end of the game, if a winner needs to be decided, if the game is tied, you go to kicks from the penalty mark. And what the IFAB has said is that those kicks from the penalty mark should be considered separate from the game itself. So if somebody is cautioned during the game, when you get to kicks from the penalty mark, you really start over. So if you were to caution someone during kicks from the penalty mark, that wouldn't be a second caution. That would be their first caution at that point. If they were cautioned twice, of course, then they might be sent off. But hopefully we can manage through kicks from the penalty mark without that. I mean, the one concern only might be the goalkeeper, right? Where the goalkeeper is warned first if they encroach ahead of a kick, and then they're cautioned. But that would start over as well. So kicks from the penalty mark are considered separate. But the one piece to remember is if, of course, a player was sent off during the match, they're not allowed to take part in those kicks from the penalty mark. All right, again, in terms of determining the outcome of a match, and a little bit more on kicks from the penalty mark. So again, as I said, if the goalkeeper happened to be warned or was cautioned in the match on a penalty kick because of their encroachment, it starts over in kicks from the penalty mark. Also, just like during penalty kicks, and we'll talk about penalty kick a little bit later, but in kicks from the mark, if the kicker and the goalkeeper commit an offense at the same time, as you can see here, the kick is recorded as missed and the kicker is cautioned. And the reason for that is whatever the circumstance of what the kicker did is almost surely to have resulted in what then the goalkeeper did essentially at the same time, because what kickers will do is make some kind of a run up or a stutter step or pretend to kick the ball. The goalkeeper moves and then you have an issue where it looks like the goalkeeper has offended, but really it was caused by the kicker themselves. So it's very, very rare that it would occur at the exact same time. But if it does, the benefit of the doubt, of course, goes to the goalkeeper, and the kicker should be sanctioned, and therefore the kick is recorded as missed, even if it goes in, and the kicker would be cautioned. Just a little bit more about the goalkeeper on penalty kicks. It says if the goalkeeper offends at the taking of the penalty kick, and this is the important part, and the ball misses the goal or rebounds from the post or crossbar, the goalkeeper is not penalized. So basically what's being said here is if the goalkeeper does come off the line, but it didn't affect really the result of the kick because the kicker missed, then the goalkeeper shouldn't be sanctioned. It's only if what they did has a clear impact on the kicker that they should be sanctioned. So most of the time, if a kicker misses, either hits it high or wide, or hits a post or an upright, and the ball doesn't go in, even if the goalkeeper stepped off the line, had both feet off the line, which of course is an offense, then the goalkeeper isn't penalized because it didn't matter anyway. All right, let's keep moving on. Now we're on to Law 11, offside. And there was just a clarification on a couple of things. And let's look at the picture here for just a second, and then let's talk about the circumstance that's being described. So you see a blue player clearly in an offside position with the ball traveling to that player. You see the assistant referee with in a reasonable position. Maybe they could be a little bit closer to the offside line there, but they can clearly see the circumstance. And what's happening here is that the red player or one of the defenders has handled the ball deliberately, but it still went through to the blue player. And in this circumstance, if there's a deliberate play by a defending player, and then the ball goes to an attacker or the other team in an offside position, then they should not be penalized. So if the red player had headed the ball and it was a deliberate play and it went through, they shouldn't be penalized. So the law is now saying the same thing applies if there was a deliberate handball. So if the red player reached up their hand to stop the ball going through, but they weren't able to do that and it went through to the blue player, then play should continue because it was a deliberate play by the opponent. Now, of course, in this circumstance, if the ball went straight through from a blue player straight to the blue player in an offside position. Once the ball gets to them and they gain an advantage there, then they should be penalized. But in this case, a deliberate handball by the defender that goes through to the attacking player, they would not be penalized. All right, I'm going to keep moving on through here. If you look at the picture here, a couple of years ago, the IFAB got much clearer about what constitutes handling or not, or what part of the body is considered part of the hand. That's been in question for some period of time. So they basically are showing here that anything above the armpit is not considered handling. So if you hit the ball with your shoulder, it's not handling. Anything from the armpit below on the arm and the hand is considered handling. There's also a clarification here. And again, we're dealing with what's currently in place. I will say that the IFAB is making a few adjustments here, but even if the ball is accidentally handled by an attacking player and they immediately score a goal, or if they accidentally handle the ball and then it goes to a teammate and they immediately score, in both those cases, that goal should be disallowed and a free kick given for that offense. So again, there's some clarity around what part of the arm and hand is considered handling. And secondly, accidental handling by a team that then immediately results in a scoring opportunity or a score by either that player or a teammate must be sanctioned. And of course, that's different. We don't call, accidental handling otherwise. It's only in that circumstance. All right, let's move on to Law 12, fouls and misconduct. Again, with the advent of the change to the laws where the ball is in play on a goal kick immediately when it's kicked and clearly moves, there are some circumstances that have come up that otherwise wouldn't have come up that we need to deal with. So let's say the goalkeeper takes a goal kick and miskicks it and only slightly kicks it forward, and there's no teammate to receive it. And the attacker, seeing that, runs in after the ball and wants to, shoot and score. If the goalkeeper then either handles the ball or kicks the ball away, they played it a second time, right? Before it's been touched or played by someone else. So that's an offense. And so we know what we need to do there. That's an indirect free kick. However, what they also did is either deny a promising attack or potentially take away an obvious goal scoring opportunity. So depending on which of those has occurred, if they have, then a further sanction needs to be put in place, which means the goalkeeper could be cautioned or sent off for that, even though it's a technical offense. So that was a clarification by IFAB. It's not a handling offense by the goalkeeper if they touch it. It's simply a touching the ball a second time before it was touched or played by another player. But it did result in potentially either denying a goal scoring opportunity, an obvious goal scoring opportunity, or stopping a promising attack. So a caution or perhaps a send-off may be warranted. That couldn't have ever occurred in the past because, as you know, the ball had to be kicked beyond the penalty area before it was in play. So this is something new, and they needed to adapt the law to this one. All right, let's look again at Law 12 in disciplinary action. and the issue of delaying the restart to show a card. So if you look here, it says, you see the referee cautioning a player. It says, once the referee has decided to caution or send off a player, the play must not be restarted until the sanction has been administered. So if you have started it, you've probably already distracted the defending team. You need to go through with the procedure. But you might just wait just a second there, because it's possible that the team might want to take a quick free kick. And if they do that, in the past, if the game was restarted, the referee wasn't allowed to come back and sanction a player. But they have changed that now, so that if it's still needed, the referee can come back afterwards and take that sanction. However, if the sanction was for stopping a promising attack, by taking the quick free kick, that promising attack was actually not taken away. So when that play is over, you wouldn't caution the player. However, if the quick free kick was taken after the whistle was blown for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, again, that wasn't fully taken away, but you would bring down the sanction, and it would be a caution instead of a send-off. So if a quick free kick is taken, you need to be clear about what the sanction was, and if each of those was not fully taken away, then the sanction is dropped basically one notch, right? But if you've already started the process, the card's out of your pocket, the players, you've called a player over, you can't allow a quick free kick to occur, because then you're influencing the nature of the game. All right, I'm going to keep going here. So we got to Law 12. There are a few more slides to go. There weren't, huge lengthy changes. Again, disciplinary action as it relates to advantage. So if the referee gives an advantage for an offense for which a caution or a sending off would have been issued, again, you operate the same way as I just described when the whistle was blown, but they took a quick free kick. So if the offense was for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, but you give an advantage because the team is continuing, if the offense, again, was interfering or stopping a promising attack, then the player's not cautioned. And if it was for dog-so, then it would come down from a red card to a yellow card. So again, if you give advantage or there's a quick free kick that's allowed, then you drop the level of sanction just one notch in both cases. So I think a lot of consistency there. All right, just a clarification, and I'll talk about this in just a minute. They added to a cautionable offense for failing to respect the required distance. They added dropped ball. Because as you know now, the ball is dropped to one player of the team that last had touched or played the ball, or the goalkeeper if it's in the penalty area, and everyone else has to be a minimum of 4 meters away. So again, there is a required distance, just as there is on a corner kick or a free kick or a throw-in. And if a player is guilty of failing to respect the required distance, then you are allowed to caution there. I'll tell you a quick story, an interesting one that we were discussing with at the pro level, just as something of interest. And I think this is kind of an interesting case. The referee has the ball in their hand, right? And you drop the ball to the player, in which case the ball is immediate in play as soon as it hits the ground, right? So the player can dribble the ball and go where they want, right? Well, in the case of I think it was a second division game in, I believe it was in Turkey, the referee stood with the player, dropped the ball, and they didn't immediately go to the ball. So an opponent who was 4 meters away ran through and got the ball, dribbled the ball, shot, and scored. And then the question was, well, is it a goal? Should it be something different? Well, there was nothing wrong with the player running in there and getting the ball, right? I mean, as soon as the ball hits the ground, it's in play. Other players can go try and get it. You don't have to wait for the player that you dropped it to get the ball. But if you are savvy readers and know the law also says that the ball has to be touched by at least 2 players prior to a goal being scored. So in this case, the player that ran in, got the ball, dribbled it, shot, and scored, the ball wasn't touched by anyone else. So if the ball was in the back of the net and last played by an attacker, then the correct answer is it must be a goal kick, right? Anyway, an interesting case, and maybe we'll see some of those at the youth level where you drop the ball to a player and they don't know exactly what they're doing and someone else runs in and gets it. There's nothing wrong with that. But keep in mind that the ball has to be touched or played by 2 different players before a goal can be scored. Okay, moving on. Again, a bit more with fouls and misconduct. And as we said before, a player can commit an offense that interferes or stops a promising attack. And we need to provide a sanction for that no matter what. So it says there are different circumstances when a player must be cautioned for unsporting behavior. The one that's very clear is if they interfere and stop a promising attack, right? Except if there's a penalty kick, right? If it's a penalty kick, then again, you bring the sanction down. If it was an offense where they attempted to play the ball. So, a tackle or clearly attempted to play the ball. Now, a promising attack can be stopped or interfered with by an offense that is not a foul challenge, as we saw with the goalkeeper or a defender for that matter could illegally play the ball a second time on a restart inside the penalty area. So again, we have to keep in mind that with free kicks and goal kicks inside the penalty area, stopping a promising attack and or taking away a clear goal scoring opportunity, there still might be a sanction even if the resulting restart is not a penalty kick. All right, I think we're getting close to the end here, but we're going to talk a little bit about Law 14 or penalty kicks, just so we're clear. Again, this is really about what happens when the goalkeeper offends. So if the goalkeeper offends, and that offense primarily is encroachment, if the ball enters the goal, of course you give a goal, no problem, right? The goalkeeper stepped forward too early, but the player has a good shot, goes in the goal, perfect, no problem, that's a goal. If the player misses, so they kick it wide or high or it rebounds, and the goalkeeper's movement didn't have any impact on the kicker, which is most likely the case, then again, you just either continue play if it's a rebound, or if it went out of bounds on the kick, then it's a goal kick, no problem. It's only if the goalkeeper prevented the ball from going in the goal or somehow impacted the kicker that then you would both warn the kicker and retake the kick. Warn the goalkeeper and retake the kick. If the goalkeeper's already been warned once, then of course it would be a caution. But again, you start with a warning to the goalkeeper first. So the ball goes in, no problem. The ball misses or rebounds. Likely it's a goal kick, or you keep playing unless the goalkeeper impacted the kicker. And then if the goalkeeper saves it and had encroached, the kick is retaken and the goalkeeper warned or cautioned, as the case may be. Keep in mind, though, that the kicker is allowed to do a little bit of a stutter on the way up to the ball, but as they get to the ball, they're not allowed to fake, right? So you can't pretend to kick, let the goalkeeper move, and then kick the ball. But as you run up, you can take a little stutter as you're running up to the ball. So keep that in mind. If it's something where the kicker caused the goalkeeper encroachment, then really it would be an offense against the kicker and an indirect free kick for the goalkeeper's team, as well as a caution to the kicker. Okay, so a little bit more then about offenses on the penalty kick. If before the ball's in play, a teammate of the kicker offends, if the ball enters the goal, no problem, right? That means the goalkeeper, his team didn't affect the scoring, and a goal is a goal, right? If it doesn't enter the goal, a kick is retaken. Now, what happens if both players offend, or players from both teams offend? Again, no matter what, the kick is retaken. If the goalkeeper and the kicker commit offenses at the same time, again, it's on the kicker. The kicker is cautioned, and it's an indirect free kick for the goalkeeper's team. And I believe we have just a little chart here. This chart is also in the laws of the game. So you can see in each case what the correct outcome should be, what the offenses are and what the outcomes would be. I'm not going to go into each one of those because we've covered every single one of them. With the exception of the last one, which is the wrong kicker taking the kick. So again, as you know, you have to identify who's taking the penalty kick. And if you identify the kicker and someone else then takes the kick, it's the same as any other offense by the attacking team. It would be an indirect free kick to the goalkeeper's team and a caution to the person who kicked the ball, who was the wrong kicker. All right, that ends the section that comes from IFAB. Those were the changes to this year, but we're happy to answer questions or take any questions that relate to the laws. And I'm not sure if we have anything in here yet, Bob or Ali. I'm gonna, let's see here. I'm gonna see if I can see the, I can't see the questions. I'm gonna close out the presentation here so I can see the questions. I'm gonna go to the Q&A. All right. Okay, so I'll start with the first question here and see if I can get this right. It says, can you explain examples of 11.4? I assume 11.4 is referring to the offside law in regards to a player off the field during active play being considered on the goal line for the purpose of offside if time. Yeah. Okay. So the being for the purposes of offside, being on the goal line primarily refers to a defending player. If you have a defending player who either intentionally or unintentionally has gone off the end line, they're still considered to be on the field for the purposes of counting the number of defenders. They're considered to be on the goal line, you know, if they fell, you know, into the goal, or if they somehow ran off the end line. they can't do that and try and put somebody in an offside position. So if you have the goalkeeper on the goal line and you have a defending player who, let's say, tried to tackle the ball but then is off the field but just over the end line, they're considered to be on the end line as well. So if the goalkeeper's on the end line and that player is considered to be on the end line, there would really be nobody who would be in an offside position at that point. Now, there's also the circumstance where an attacking player might be off the field. And if an attacking player goes off the field, there's a slightly different circumstance. They have to stay off the field and not participate until the ball is cleared out of the penalty area, at which point they can return to the field. So if you read Law 11, it's detailed pretty well there, but hopefully that answers the question. All right. Okay, let's take the next one here. All right, it says on a drop ball, not touched by the player it's dropped to, a defender takes it, kicks a goal. It's not a goal unless touched by two players. That's right. I would expect if the ball touched the goalkeeper's hand, the goalkeeper would be the second player, of course. So, yeah, if a defender got the ball, was trying to kick it back to their goalkeeper, let's say, but they hit it too hard and the goalkeeper then touches it with their hand, but it still goes into the goal, you're right. It's touched by two players and it would be a goal in that case, right? All right, there's also a question about the goalkeeper being injured on kicks from the penalty mark. I know that you're allowed to substitute there. You have to look at the rules of the competition for the NorCal League to cover any circumstance there. But of course, if a goalkeeper is injured and can't continue, they're allowed to use a substitute to replace the goalkeeper. In that case, you'd still end up with 11 players and you go through the kicks as you normally kick. If for some reason they decided not to substitute, but they're going to use one of the players who was on the field at the end of the game, and now that person goes and takes the goalkeeper's spot, and now you have only 10 players on that team, you have to reduce to equate. So even in the past, you did that at the beginning of the kicks, but now you have to do that throughout the kicks. So the other team would have an opportunity to reduce, one of their players. If they're smart, they're reducing, whoever they think is their worst kicker. Or, they keep all their best kickers and they reduce one kicker so that the teams stay even there. All right, just walking down the other Q&As and Bob and Ali, if you guys want to chime in at any point, feel free to do that too. All right, here's the next one. It says if a player serving a red card suspension from a previous game waits for the current match to finish, then is that player now eligible to enter the game determining phase? I believe kicks from the penalty mark. I believe in all cases the answer to that is no. Although the kicks from the penalty mark are considered separate from the game itself, I don't think the suspension ends at the end of the game. It ends at the end of that whole determination of the outcome of that match. Now, maybe that would be different if there was some kind of a playoff thing, and at the end of the game, if it was tied, then you go to, a mini game or something like that. So I don't know how to answer that question. But in the case of a regular match where you have to have a winner, I can't foresee a suspended player being able to go in and be allowed to participate in kicks from the penalty mark.
Yeah, Tim, can I add something to this?
Please do.
Some of these are asking questions that coming from high school rules, and I am not familiar with high school rules, so I don't want to answer those. Lots of these questions are kind of mixed up with high school rules, which we want to make sure we are not talking anything about high school rules, because I am not familiar, nor is Ali. Tim, are you familiar with the new high school rules?
No, I mean, what we're talking about here is the IFAB laws. We're not talking about high school, college, or any other iteration that someone else writes the rule book.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's not confuse that. Thanks, Bob. All right, another question here. Let me see if I can describe it. It says Team B keeper is defending a penalty kick in the first half. Okay, and they move, it looks like it says they move before the kick is taken and are warned, and then the kick is retaken. In the second half, the same keeper is defending again on a penalty kick, and they move before the kick is taken. Is the keeper cautioned and shown a yellow card? So they were warned once, right, in the game, and now it's still the same game, although it's the second half. So now they would be cautioned, which again is different than what we said about kicks from the penalty mark. If they had a caution after this, and then the game had to go to kicks from the penalty mark, things would start over. And now they would get another warning, caution, etc. But in this case, it's during the regular part of the match, just two different halves. So the first one is a warning. The second one then would be a caution. All right, let me scroll down here and see what else we have. All right. Someone's getting creative. We got the Panthers and the Raiders playing here. This sounds more like somebody else's football, not our football. All right. John is a defender for the Panthers, taking a free kick just outside his penalty area. Okay, so he's outside his own penalty area and kicking the ball in the other direction. Got it. He kicks the ball back toward his keeper. Unfortunately, John didn't notice his keeper was out of position, not in the goal. Realizing the ball is going into the net, John races to the ball. Before the ball enters the goal, Noah kicks it, but slices it over the goal line into his own goal. His opponents, the Raiders, begin celebrating. What action should you take? Is that before or after you shake your head multiple times? Okay, so let's ask a question here first. If the ball were to go in the goal just directly from that kick, can it be a goal? The answer, of course, is no. You can't take a free kick and kick it directly into your own goal. So it would have to be a corner kick, right? Now, before it went into the goal, he played it a second time, which, and it probably by the time he gets to it, it's let's say it's probably inside the goal area. At the point that he plays it a second time, that's a different kind of violation, right? He's not preventing a goal because there couldn't have been a goal. He's only violating touching or playing the ball a second time before it's been touched or played by somebody else, right? So that would be an indirect free kick to the opponents, and it would move out to the 6 yard, the top of the goal area, the 6 yard line, and that's it, right? There's no other sanction. There was no promising attack there, as described here. There was no taking away an obvious goal, a scoring opportunity, because a goal couldn't have been scored from what would have happened if he hadn't touched the ball. So this would be an indirect free kick to the other team at the top of the 6. You'd have to deal with getting all the players back between the the goalposts and on the line, administering that kick. And again, that's it, right? Okay. I'm going to scroll down here, see what else we have. Okay. There's something about a drop ball and COVID protocol here. Drop ball. I'm not quite sure exactly what the question is or what the guidelines would be. And of course, you need to follow whatever the guidelines are from, from Mo and from NorCal and CNRA. But I would say generally, a drop ball is a drop ball. So do the drop ball like it should be done. I think some referees might be trying to be extra careful and carrying their, whatever the hand, cream is to sanitize whatever. But a drop ball is a drop ball. You wouldn't put it on the ground. You would drop it like you normally do. And I would say that's the right thing to do. Unless you get other direction from NorCal, then follow that. But again, this hopefully is temporary during the COVID times. There are a number of things that might be done a little bit differently just to try and protect everyone. So that's the best answer I've got on that one. All right, I'm going to keep scrolling down here and see what else we have. It said if a drop ball is taken and the defending player comes and takes the ball before it is touched, dribble shoots, and the keeper tries to save. Okay, I think we got that one. So yeah, if somebody comes in, regardless of who it is, they shoot and score. If they're the only one to have touched the ball, it can't be a goal. It's either got to be a goal kick or a corner kick, depending on who last touched it. However, if someone else, including the goalkeeper, touches it before it goes into the goal, then it very well could be a goal, right? And would be, so no problem there. Okay, I'm not quite sure how to answer this question, so maybe you can retype or clarify. It says, when does a defender reset offside for an attacking player who is in an offside position? I'm not quite sure how to answer that because we don't have all the details there. But I mean, when a teammate plays the ball, you look around the field and you see what positions are the teammates in. Are they in offside positions or not in offside positions? If they're in an offside position, but they don't interfere with play or gain an advantage, then you're not worried about that player. And you would have to wait until the ball is played again next by a member of the team to then make the next judgment. So if they didn't participate in that particular play and they are in an offside position, then it doesn't matter, right? So you have to wait until you have a next opportunity to decide first, are they in an offside position? And then they need to participate somehow by either interfering with player and opponent or gaining an advantage, right? And that means often either touching the ball or clearly interfering with an opponent. Okay, the question is, can we discuss accidental handling in more detail? Let me just say, making yourself bigger unintentionally or ball to hand considered accidental. I think let's make a couple of distinctions here. First of all, and maybe some of you remember back to the World Cup in Japan and Korea, when the ball was accidentally handled by a German player inside the 6-yard area, and it resulted in a goal against the United States, which was allowed. Somehow that didn't feel quite right. Maybe I'm biased, but didn't feel quite right. So that's what International Football Association board was trying to deal with. If something accidental happens and a goal is scored immediately, something just from a soccer point of view doesn't feel right about that. So that shouldn't be allowed. That's the only time accidental handling comes into play. Otherwise, these other concepts that you're talking about, like ball to hand or hand to ball, or making yourself bigger, I'm not sure there's such a thing as making yourself bigger unintentionally. If you make yourself bigger and your arms are out, you don't need to worry about whether that's intentional or not. Or if your hand is above your shoulder, we're not worried about whether that's intentional or not. That's putting things at risk. That is, making, it's not a normal part of the play. I mean, if you jump to head the ball and your arms are out a little bit, that's not really making yourself bigger. On the other hand, if your arms are out, left and right, and you're making yourself much bigger, that's what we're talking about. So the concepts of making yourself bigger and the hand going to the ball and the arm above the shoulder, those are all things that are considered and not related to accidental. Accidental is any touch from the, what is considered handling down from below the armpit down by an attacking player right before a goal is scored. That's what's not allowed. Hopefully that clarifies things a little bit. All right, I'm going to keep walking down here, and Ali and Bob, if you guys have anything additional you want to add, feel free again to chime in. Okay,
Go ahead. I've been answering a lot of people. I've been answering lots of people online by writing. I answered maybe 50, 60 answers. Did notice that lots of them are using in particular certain rule books, such as high school and or some guidelines they're getting from different leagues. And all we can tell you is we are tonight, explaining only IFAB rules in details and the changes. You must follow the guidelines and think for the leagues, local leagues that you are serving, whatever they're telling you. So lots of these questions were involving that. And I'm again clarifying it again, because I wrote to several people similar stuff. Again, we are only explaining the new rules and the new laws according to IFAB.
got it.
Thank you.
All right.
And
here's one though that I think is worth discussing. So and clarifying. So I'm curious about the downgrade. If you give an advantage or there's a quick free kick allowed and it didn't really take away a promising attack, then you wouldn't give a caution, you do nothing, right? But it's quite cynical, hard foul. Shouldn't the offender still be punished for unsporting behavior? Yes, totally correct. So if it's a foul that is reckless or with excessive force, there is no downgrade for that. If for some reason you give advantage or allow a quick free kick, you would come back and still give the original sanction. So if it should be a caution, it's still a caution. If the player should be sent off, they should still be sent off. It's pretty rare though that you're going to give an advantage or allow a quick free kick on a send-off. Maybe you will vary once in a while, but on that one specifically, the law also says that if you if you do give an advantage or there is a quick free kick on a play where the player should be sent off, if play continues and then somehow it's going on for a period of time and that player who should be sent off gets involved in the play in any way, you immediately stop the game and administer the send-off right then. So that is a little bit different for that, but you wouldn't want that player then to continue to participate in the game. So hopefully that answers that question.
I think they are a little bit confusing. May I add a little bit? I think they are confusing between denying goal scoring opportunity, playing the ball, deny goal scoring opportunity that reduced from red to yellow or yellow to nothing. Example, if there is a deny goal scoring opportunity that you want to give a red for, but the guy tackled the player and played the ball and or tried to play the ball, then you can reduce because he tried to play the ball. If the guy has no chance to play the ball and it's the doxo, then you punish as a doxo. But I think that you guys are concentrating on the doxo action, but you are saying violent conduct, the wrong things. Violent conduct and reckless treated differently for all purposes here.
Yeah, exactly. But
Go ahead, Tim.
But let's say again, you always sanction the greater offense. So if a player came in while trying to play the ball, but used excessive force, and you allowed play to continue because you wanted to give them a chance to score. If it was excessive force, you would still send them off. What Bob is saying is if it wasn't excessive force, as long as you're playing the ball, then you reduce the sanction if it wasn't actually taken away. Or of course, if you call a penalty kick because it's inside the penalty area, that was the one about triple jeopardy, where you would have a player sent off, they'd have to sit out, plus they would get a penalty. In that case, it goes down to a yellow card. But in any event, if there is violent conduct or serious foul play, because the nature of the foul was so bad that it was violent, you don't reduce for that. We're only talking about circumstances where an obvious goal scoring opportunity or a promising attack was possibly denied, but because you either allowed play to continue or because it was an advantage, that didn't fully materialize. Okay. There's a question here, and the person is right. I just use this to illustrate an example. That whatever that example was, where the player played the ball on a free kick, and then before it's touched by anyone else, runs in and touches it again, but it still goes into the goal. You would give a goal, and I'm sorry, you can't give a goal because no goal is possible, right? So you would want to give the free kick to the team. That's much better than giving them a corner kick, right? So you would give that. On the other hand, if there's a circumstance unlike that one, but there is some kind of a second touch and something could have been a goal and it goes into the goal, then then you could allow an advantage. But in this case, there's no way to do that, because the only answer is it's either a corner kick or it's a free kick to the opponent at the 6-yard area, right? It can't be a goal. So what's better, the free kick or the corner kick? It's pretty clear it's the free kick. All right.
Tim, you doing good?
There's a question, I think, and Mo probably will answer this at the end, but the slides and the presentation, will it be available? I know that NorCal has both the slides and is recording the presentation. So I believe both are available, but Mo can address that one at the end. All right, just looking through to see if there are any last couple that we can address here. It says, in regard to handling, does the hands or arm in the silhouette not being handling still apply to accidental handling? Accidental handling is anytime the ball touches what is considered the hand, meaning from the arm, from the your underarm down. Yes, it doesn't matter what the silhouette is or anything else. And in any other case, you wouldn't call that. It's only called if it's accidental and immediately leads to a goal or a goal scoring chance. That was the change a couple of years ago, saying, hey, on attacking plays where goals are scored that way, something doesn't feel quite right about that. And that's why they made that change. Okay.
Can you explain delivery from the defender to the forward who is offside?
You want to take that one, Ali?
Yeah, it says, can you explain delivery from the defender to the forward who is offside? I guess he's trying to say if the player is playing a ball, you have to understand it was a deflection. This is between deflection and playing the ball. If the defender plays the ball, in your opinion, and go to the offside player, then he's not considered offside. But if his ball deflect on him, he just hits him and goes to him, and player in offside position, gain position, that considered as an offside. Tim, you were doing good, and I will just let you go on with it. By the time I'm reading, you're going to it, and also Bob is answering some of the question.
All right, let me just 1 second here. I'm going to share the screen again, my screen again, for just 1 second. So I have just one slide I'd like to share here.
Also, Mr. Carl Jones is asking, so downgrades are only done if the foul was careless and legitimate play on the ball? Yes. As we talked about it and Tim explained, if it's a stop promising attack or if it's a dog, so downgrade is on that situation, same as advantage. If the quick start happen, then if you bring it back, you downgrade it. If it was a stop promising attack, you will not give a yellow. And if it was dog, so because of a quick start or advantage, now you downgrade it to yellow for the dogs.
Yeah. Anything else you guys see, Bob, Ali, that we want to answer before I?
No, that was the last one I read. I've been reading some of them.
No, I am just want to clarify to lots of these questions that seem very similar in nature, that they are confused about violent conduct is a red card, whether you call it PK or not, but versus dog so that can be downgraded. The dog so actions can be downgraded depending on the playing the ball, not playing the ball, and so on and so forth. So let's, I want to take away the violent conduct words from them and not to be confused with that and serious foul play. They are confusing those two.
We should have a separate session on, on some of the issues like that, dog so and promising attack, and how you treat those versus something where you need to consider careless, reckless, or excessive force. I mean, if something is reckless or with excessive force, you don't ever downgrade those things. We're only downgrading something if the opportunity to score wasn't completely lost because of either an advantage or a quick free kick, or also in the case of a penalty kick, the triple jeopardy. But violent play is never downgraded, period, right?
There you go. Here we go. Here we go.
But we
I
can-
want to emphasize on that,
pick that up.
clarify.
I know Bob and Ali and I have prepared a whole presentation on all the circumstances related to handling, which can get very complicated. And by the way, will change slightly again in July. But for now, I think it's clear. I just want to wrap it up by saying, and taking a statement here from the International Football Association, which I think is a good one. I mean, our beautiful game is pretty amazing and played all over the world by people of all races, ethnicities, social classes. It really is an equalizer, and it's an awesome thing to see that, people can rise out of poverty with their soccer skills. It's pretty cool. And, the spirit of the laws, which are really about, again, safety, equality, and enjoyment, are the same everywhere. And, although there are a few changes here and there, the spirit of the game doesn't change. The other thing to keep in mind, both as referees and, for those that are coaches or players or parents that might be listening here, the laws also don't say that the referee is always right. They just say that the referee's decision needs to be final and respected, but referees make mistakes. Ideally, there's, the higher you advance, the smaller your mistakes should be, but everyone makes mistakes, and just as players make tons of mistakes, right? Coaches make mistakes. So it's important that we keep in mind the spirit of the laws. We respect those that are trying to make them work, and that, that's for the good of the game. So appreciate everyone's time tonight. Hopefully this has been a useful exercise. And Mo, let's turn it back to you.
Yeah, can I add one thing? Every time we answer 35 questions, looks like another 35 questions pop up. So please feel free to reach out for any one of us at any time. Our emails are both on NorCal and on your USSF, and our phone numbers. There's nothing secret. You are very welcome to reach out to anyone individually, and hopefully we can answer lots of these questions that keep popping up after we answer 50 and 60. Another 50 and 60 pop up. All right. Thank you all, everybody. Really appreciate your participation.
Well, I want to thank the panelists, Tim Wetland, Ali Muhebi, and Bob Savella. I also want to thank our executive office manager at NorCal, Nina Johnson, for putting this together. I do have some important stuff to share with you. So bear with me, don't jump ship yet. I send everyone a return to play guidelines from NorCal. That's going to change. That's going to be sent to all the signers and all the referees that are in my database. One of the main things that I want you to realize starting this weekend, and this is brand new, most of you don't know about it yet, or some may. Players, coaches, spectators, and referees are to be wearing masks starting this weekend. I'm going to also put together a brand new return to play guidelines from NorCal. My counterpart, Steve Larson, and I have been working on this. He will be sharing that as well. So I just want to kind of give you a heads up what's coming up. Couple of things that came up during this webinar. Somebody talked about if somebody is serving a red card, can that person participate in kicks from the mark? As a PAD committee, I'm the guy that makes the decision on the red cards. The person that is serving a red card, his name is crossed off for that game, regardless of if that game goes to kick from the mark or not. So let's just don't confuse things. They cannot, under any circumstances, participate whatsoever. Secondly, we are recording this and we are going to share the link sometime tomorrow, because we run it through the YouTube and it takes time, and then we share it with you. So just be patient. We are going to send that out to everyone that have registered, and also I will share it with you through my database and to all the signers and so forth, okay? These three gentlemen also been working on handling of the ball violations. That's another webinar that is coming up, and I'm just gonna have to find out when they have time so we could do this in the month of April. So please stay tuned. We are going to have that done and presented to you and so forth. So one last thing that I want to share with you. You are not going to be a, mask police. That's not what we're asking you to do, okay? The only thing that comes to play here is player safety and your safety. If any one of those start causing issues and everything else, let's bring the coach together and talk to them and get some cooperation here so we don't have issues. We're learning. Nothing is normal anymore, folks. It's going to be years before we find something normal. So what we need to do is to be creative and approachable and a good listener. So let's just work on that and hoping that we have the fact that we're having the games back. I'm blessed. I'm very happy about this. But at the same time, we want to keep everyone, including you, safe out there. So any questions, call me, email me. I'm available. If you're not on my list and you want to get the guidelines from NorCal, and also I'm going to put a one sheet of all the questions that you guys have been bringing up for the past 3-4 days. I put it together and send it to you. I'd be more than happy to do that for you as well. So with that said, I want to thank every one of you that take the time to be here. Again, big thank to Nina, Tim Whalen, Ali Muhibbi, and Sabawa, and have a great weekend. Thank you.